not likely to set the Thames on fire in any way. He was as undistinguished in the various sports popular among boys in those days as he was in his lessons. He was as good as the average, but no better, had fought some tough fights with boys of his own age, and had shown endurance rather than brilliancy. In the ordinary course of things, he would probably in 3 or 4 years' time have chosen some profession, and indeed his father had already settled in his mind that as Harry was not likely to make any great figure in life in the way of intellectual capacity, the best thing would be to obtain for him a commission in His Majesty's service, as to which, with the doctor's connection among people of influence, there would not be any difficulty. He had, however, said nothing as yet to the boy on the subject. The fact that Harry had 3 younger brothers and 4 sisters, and that Dr. Sandwith, who was obliged to keep up a good position, sometimes found it difficult to meet his various expenses, made him perhaps more inclined to view favorably the offer he had that morning received than would otherwise have been the case. 2 years before, he had attended professionally a young French nobleman attached to the embassy. It was from him that the letter which had been the subject of conversation had been received. It ran as follows: Dear Dr. Sandwith, since my return from Paris, I have frequently spoken to my brother, the Marquis of St. respecting the difference of education between your English boys and our own. Nothing struck me more when I was in London than your great schools. With us, the children of good families are almost always brought up at home. They learn to dance and to fence, but have no other exercise for their limbs, and they lack the air of manly independence which struck me in English boys. They are more gentils. I do not know the word in your language which expresses it. They carry themselves better. They are not so rough. They are more polite. There are advantages in both systems, but for myself I like yours much the best. My brother is, to some extent, a convert to my view. There are no such schools to which he could send his sons in France, for what large schools we have are under the management of the fathers, and the boys have none of that freedom which is the distinguishing point of the English system of education. Even if there were such schools, I am sure that Madame, my sister-in-law, would never hear of her sons being sent there. Since this is so, the Marquis has concluded that the best thing would be to have an English boy of good family as their companion. He would, of course, study with them under their masters. He would play and ride with them, and would be treated as one of themselves. They would learn something of English from him, which would be useful if they adopt the diplomatic profession. He would learn French, which might also be useful to him, but of course the great point which my brother desires is that his sons should acquire something of the manly independence of thought and action which distinguishes English boys. Having arranged this much, I thought of you. I know that you have several sons. If you have one of from 14 to 16 years, and you would like him to take such a position for 2 or 3 years, I should be glad indeed to secure such a companion for my nephews. If not, would you do me the favor of looking round among your acquaintances and find us a lad such as we need? He must be a gentleman, and a fair type of the boy we are speaking of. I may say that my brother authorizes me to offer in his name, in addition to all expenses, 2,000 francs a year to the young gentleman, who will thus benefit his sons. I do not think that the political excitement which is agitating Paris need be taken into consideration. Now that great concessions have been made to the representatives of the nation, it is not at all probable that there will be any recurrence of such popular tumults as that which brought about the capture of the Bastille. But in any case, this need not weigh in the decision, as my brother resides for the greater part of the year in his chateau near Dijon, in Burgundy, far removed from the troubles in the capital. The more Dr. Sandwith thought over the matter, the more he liked it. There were comparatively few Englishmen in those days who spoke the French language. It was, indeed, considered part of the education of a young man of good family to make what was called the grand tour of Europe under the charge of a tutor after leaving the university, but these formed a very small proportion of society, and indeed the frequent wars which had, since the Stuarts lost the throne of England, occurred between the two countries had greatly interfered with continental travel. Even now the subjects of France and England were engaged.